and visibly with you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank everybody for being here tonight for our November board meeting. Our first item, we need to amend and or accept tonight's agenda. I have two things. First, we're going to add to action item C. We are going to approve the wellness policy also, along with the other ones listed. And then we're going to put another action item on the bottom there, F. Kim Vanderpook, removing her from the preschool accounts and replacing her with Jenny Isingham. That's all I have. Does anybody else have anything else they need to add?
Make a motion, we accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and support for the amended agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, very good. This time, it is time for public comment, which is limited to 2 minutes. Seeing none, I guess we will move past that. Routine matters. Approve the October board minutes.
Make a motion.
We have a motion.
Supported.
And we have support for the October board minutes. Is there any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? B, consider general fund invoices for payment. Matt?
I would like to make a motion to pay check 78086 through 78246, I'm doing these backwards, from Food Services for $61,794.86, and from General Fund checks 78080 through 78266 for $261,848.95.
Motion.
Support. We have motion and support for our invoices. Do we have any questions on our payments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to reports and communications, board president. Couple things, just want to appreciate and thank Ken for sitting in for me there a month ago. Appreciate that. It is Veterans Day today too, so if there's any veterans in the house or anybody listening, appreciate them and their service to our country. And also, congratulations to our new 2 elected board members for another term. Appreciate you.
It was close.
It was high.
Watch it go for a minute.
Stay up all night, wait for them.
But either way, I just appreciate you serving for another term. And that's all I have, Superintendent.
Yes, Veterans Day today. Also like to thank the veterans for their service. We had a nice Veterans Day assembly on Friday, this past Friday, with Ms. Neverth and Mr. Good and Mrs. Rodenbaugh. Did a nice job. Headed on Friday, Mr. Good, if you recall, is in the National Guard and plays in their band and had commitments for Veterans Day with the band. So
It was very nice. Very nice.
couple other things. We have our staff climate survey that was sent out last week. This is the survey, this will be the third year that we have sent the survey out. It'll be interesting to collect the data for our culture and climate. The parent survey went out today for the elementary and high school. If you do have a child in each building, you get the survey for each building. It just helps us narrow down the results per building. And then student climate survey will be given next week. We did send opt-out forms home with parents or to parents if they choose to opt out their students from that. Policy update. I did ask Kevin to add the wellness policy 8510 to it. I did email you guys, it was late today, regarding the policy addition to it. This is a policy that needs to be renewed every 3 years. We have a wellness committee that met last week and approved the policy as it stands, no changes needed. We just need to show that it's updated for the third year. Last time it was updated was 2021. And then because of COVID, there were waivers as well. So it's just time to have it updated with that. Buses, you'll see that we have buses on our list. This would be the last purchases for our sinking fund, or yes, I'm sorry, our bond proposal for that, for purchasing 4 buses. Coming up with that. Congratulations to our girls cross-country team. They qualified for the state meet and finished 15th. I believe there's 27 teams, so finished 15th. They're already talking about next year and improving next year, and getting the boys to the state meet as well. Football. Unfortunately, their boys lost in their district final game last Friday to North Muskegon. It was a great season. The boys ended up being 9-2, if I have that correct. Lost to Fowler and then North Muskegon. So it was a really good season. And then girls volleyball. They won districts last Thursday. They play in regionals tomorrow night at 5:30 in Houghton Lake. And they've got a good shot of being pretty competitive in regionals. So we're excited to see how well that they do. Next week, geez, seems like we have board meetings every week sometimes. Next month, we'll do our superintendent evaluation for our December meeting, and I'll make sure that you guys have that, the evaluation ahead of time for that. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, business managers. Liz and Tate.
Hello, everyone. Other than what was in the report, basically we're working on a budget amendment to bring that to the board next month. That'll be the first amendment of the year, and then we'll do another one probably in like March. But hoping to at least get a little more information on some revenue before then, as far as you know, some of our allocations and stuff for this year. And then we've been working with Tammy and Scott on the spend down plan for food service and yeah, we've got a plan and working on things, and you know, I guess if a dishwasher was gonna go bad, this was the year to have it go, because we had money they want us to spend, so, but yeah, so I think that's about it, unless you guys have any questions.
I'm not sure if this question is for you or for Scott, that it has to do with, I think probably in your memo, you talked a bit about balancing out all the projects and that kind of stuff, and we all knew that there was going to be a need at the end. How do we determine how that's going to be met? I mean, there's several possibilities. What's your plan for?
Yeah, good question, Ken, and actually I meant to include that in my update, and I apologize. Yeah, so right now if the buses get approved tonight, we would have a deficit in the bond and sinking funds of $262,953.15, give or take, because we are still finishing up some payments of things that we're like, oh, this probably should have been in the bond, this should have been in the sinking fund, some organization of it. Yeah, small things, $2,000-3,000 things, but that adds up too, right? So then we would probably go over, once we have our budget amendment, we can look at that and see kind of where accounts are sitting, even with the fund balance for this year going forward, what our funds look like. I would probably then take it to the executive committee, talk to the executive committee about options of where that money can come from, and then we would bring it to the board with a discussion with the board, was my plan for that.
So the 262, is that's a shortage on the bond proposal, regardless of the sinking fund
Yep.
projects?
So the shortage on the bond proposal with the bus purchase is $154,209.15.
Okay,
And then the sinking fund with the gym floor, remember we kind of pushed that in to get that done, was $108,000.
so that's an all-inclusive number, the 262?
Yes, all inclusive, yep. And considering that we originally thought we were gonna have to borrow around $738, that's pretty good. Pretty good with that, never wanna have to borrow that, but pretty good. And like I said, that's kind of a fluid number. It shouldn't change drastically, but it will be close to that.
All right, thanks.
So it could come from this year's sinking funds, it could come from capital projects, it could come from general fund, are kind of our options right now.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Liz or Scott?
Sorry, Liz, didn't mean to jump in.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, we'll move on to our principals. Mr. Wisner, would you like to start?
Sure. I think I just want to highlight a couple things and thank a couple people publicly for some things that have been going on in the elementary. Some things that we wouldn't be able to do if we were in a K-12 school. And I'm just always thankful that we are. So I'll start with, we had our family night, our annual family night in October. It was the week of the board meeting or the week after, I can't remember, but we had a really good turnout. And my team that planned that wanted to have a sports theme around it. So we had the night of a JV football game, so parents could come ahead of time and do those learning activities with their kids, eat some dinner, and then go to the game if they wished. But we also had varsity football players, not JV because they were getting ready for their game, and varsity and JV volleyball players. So I wanted to thank those high schoolers for coming, and Coach Murphy and Verberkmos and Rodenbaugh for lending us their athletes. It was a big hit. The kids like seeing the athletes there, and I think it was a draw for families too. So it was a good time overall. And then Senior Vana, he had his crew cook hot dogs for us before they started cooking concessions for the game. And just it was a huge help to us for them to do that. So the senior crew led by Jasmine Johnson and Olivia Peterson, we just really appreciated them for their efforts. And then the varsity football players have been coming to classrooms and reading. They got that grant last year that Coach Maloney was able to secure. They've been coming down with the books they purchased using that grant. Hopefully we'll be able to get the varsity basketball players to come and read because they did last year and it was great. We like to continue that tradition. The kids really love to see them, especially when they come, in their jerseys or their uniforms. They really like that. And it's a great way to build literacy with our kids and help them to see that it's important. And then we started the HERO program this last Friday, so that's where high schoolers can volunteer to be bigs to our littles and to be mentors, and they meet every Friday with littles. And so Mr. Murphy had a huge list of kids who wanted to volunteer, so Mrs. Hunningham matched those kids up with those kids, and they got together Friday for the first time, and all smiles, lots of fun. So I just appreciate Mr. Murphy and Mrs. Hunningham for organizing all of that. That's no easy task, and they've been doing that for many years, so we're just thankful for that program. And then finally, the CTC has their teacher prep program that they've been doing under the direction of Amy Solani. We have 3 students in our building right now who are part of that program and in classrooms. And so there's a student from NMC who's with Sherry Brinks, Chelsea Eisenga is in the Rochelle Camp House, and Bryce Aiken is with Mrs. Maloney. So they're doing a good job so far. They're doing well. They seem to enjoy it. So then the goal is for them to go to college, to go into education, and then come on back. That's the goal. So we enjoy being able to grow our own a bit. So.
Sounds good. Any questions? All right, Mr. Preacher.
We had a great night at conferences. Percentage of parents that came is up again this year, so we're excited to see parents continue to come into the building and being a part of their students. I know we fight technology where they have instant access all the time, but it is just great to have them coming in and having those conversations, because there's a lot more you can learn in person than it is just through a quick message back and forth or checking grades. So we always love seeing the parents in and seeing those numbers continue to increase, and seeing the parents showing up for that. We had a great meeting with our student council, and they're in the process of Christmas Spirit Week, planning that out as we look at the holidays coming up, and they're changing things up and looking at doing 2 dances for the middle school this year as opposed to just 1 as they've done in the past. And so that's got a lot of excitement brewing for the kids. And we also met with Ms. Bronfman's class and getting times and arrangements made for getting the trees up in the middle school and also in the auditorium, and getting all that stuff ready with a little extra volunteer time to get ready for Christmas and all of the concerts and programs going on. So we got Christmas lights on the brain.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Rosenbaum?
I don't have a whole lot to add. Mr. Akam did a nice job mentioning the teams, and I'd like to thank the coaches who put so much time and dedication into those teams. That starts early summer and goes for a long time, so I'm very grateful for the coaches that pour into those kids. Winter sports started today, so the fight for gym space has begun. So that will be fun. And yeah, we've had a good November, and looking forward to Friday off, and then the Thanksgiving break before we hit December, which becomes a lot.
Could I add one thing to Mrs. Rosenbaum? Sorry. I did a great job of making a list, but not a good job of following. This year too, we do have freshman basketball for boys posted. With the number of boys that we have, that need is there, kind of demand is there, I guess. So we are looking for a coach for freshman boys basketball. We're looking to commit to this as long as our numbers allow it. So it's something that we want to continue with. Unfortunately, the girls' numbers aren't there right now, but we hope that they come to that. So just wanted to share that with you too.
There's been a team in the past, hasn't there?
There has been.
What is in a bad spot, Title IX wise?
It shouldn't. No, good question. Bad spot of gym space with wrestling and stuff, so it shouldn't, but I'll make sure Sean double checks that, so the demand is there. Yep.
Okay, committee reports. I think the policy committee met since our last board meeting, correct?
We did.
They didn't.
Would you guys like to talk about a riveting meeting, or would you like me to?
It certainly wasn't a
We reviewed the policies that were up for the update. Didn't see anything glaring with them. We did have policy 2264 in this update that we didn't feel like needed to be updated, which is the Title IX policy. There's going to be changes with that. It's still in the courts, and there's going to be changes with the change in leadership with the election. So we felt like it was not needed to be updated at this time. It would not include their updates.
We had a brief discussion on Neola versus Troon as far as their policy provider. Some of the ins and outs, or ups and downs of making a change and potential costs involved, and so it's kind of an ongoing discussion, I guess.
Okay. Questions, comments?
That's about the extent of it. The policies. It's just, it can be, when they're changing one word, changing punctuation, changing different things like that.
I think we all agreed that there has to be a more understandable policy format or whatever, you know, to try to read those things makes you dizzy. It just, there has to be an easier way to interpret and read a policy.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty universal.
Anything from MASB?
I do. I apologize, I meant to have this in the packet and it did not get in the packet, and that's my fault. So I would like to do a little report on, I don't know, if there's enough down there. Try not to take a lot of time, but there were some things that I thought would be good to bring back from the, got enough down there?
Yep, perfect.
To bring back from the annual conference. It was the 23rd through the 27th. There were two different educational formats. One was what are called clinic sessions, and then there was CBA classes. These are classes that you actually take for certification. Some of the clinic sessions I attended, one was on capital improvement planning, the whole, you know, how to do a capital improvement plan, and a lot of our capital improvement plan is tied with our sinking fund, obviously. So that was an interesting discussion. School board policy hot topics. Some of the hot topics that was brought out is AI. That's a huge, everybody's shaking their head trying to figure that out.
Yes.
And that's gonna be an ongoing discussion. Title IX was a hot topic. The point there was made that really Title IX has nothing to do with athletics as we see it. Security background checks is an ongoing issue. The next one I thought was interesting, the use of name, image, and likenesses for high school athletes. This is a hot topic. There's 38 states that have now given approval for high school athletes to sell their name and images and likenesses. So this is a hot topic that's coming about. I don't think it's real hot in Michigan yet, but it's on its way. So that's interesting. Talked about some revisions that are in the works for the Open Meetings Act, and of course, student discipline was discussion. Next clinic session I attended was the how to levy debt, talking about the timing of when you want to levy debt and all that kind of stuff. The next one was a real interesting one. It was on cell phone policies. I'll cover a little bit later, but there actually has been legislation introduced to ban cell phones in schools. What that looked like and the chances of that passing are not real great. But it was there was a presentation from 3 districts that, and one was Traverse City, that put in cell phone policies. One was called Away for the Day, and then one was called No Cell Bell to Bell. So it was interesting. The universal thing, which all 3 schools said, was that that there was a definite change in the classroom atmosphere. Kids were talking to one another, they were interacting. They don't have any data to convert that to improved academic performance. It's too new, but it was interesting. They all took different approaches to it, but it was a very interesting discussion. And after some initial disruption, it actually became quite popular with the parents. Initially it didn't, but that was an interesting discussion. Next one I went on is the impact of childhood trauma. Man, that was powerful. That was powerful. I really wish I'd known that a few years ago. The only class I was able to attend, I got called home early on emergency, so the only class I was able to attend was on succession planning, particularly regarding the superintendent, and hopefully this is something we're not gonna need for a long time.
I hope so too.
But
You saw that on there.
But it's good to think about it, you know, how you do internal, external, you know, that whole, it was an interesting discussion. They did a review of potential lame duck legislative session, and this is all possibilities. The majority of it's probably never gonna see the light of day. But there was a discussion about the FAFSA forms, the parents' financial forms. That's been a hot topic for a long time. And it looks like that's going to pass, or maybe it has, but the school's gonna have the option to waive everything. So it's kind of a stupid thing, really, in all likelihood. Standardized emergency technology is standardizing technology between emergency departments. Like what one calls is, one thing, everybody knows what that is, because right now there's a lot of differences. State storage of firearm materials, this is being developed by the state police, but the schools will be potentially required to distribute it. Change in work permit processing, a lot of work permits is being taken away from the schools now, so that's a good thing. HB 5329 seizure awareness, HB 4279 allowing ISD millages to be used to contract with other ISDs, which evidently they can't do now, and I wasn't really aware of that, but. So if we had an ISD millage and they wanted to contract a service to another ISD, they could do that. HB 4054 was interesting. Allows for traditional cultural regalia to be worn at graduation. It seems real innocent on the surface, and it was primarily, I think, driven by the American Indian population, but when you got into that, there's a lot of cultures, and some of the cultural gear involves spears and swords and guns, and so it's a little bit more involved than what you think it is. So it's quite an emotional topic. So that was an interesting discussion. SB 500 just codifies a free breakfast and makes it into law. HB 4671 repeals the ban on pre-Labor Day starts. Senate Bill 647 to 650, it elevates the sale of tobacco and vaping materials, so that's the same as alcohol. It will put a lot more pressure on the merchant rather than on the purchaser. HB 5865 had to do with property valuations. This doesn't affect us, just has to do with the larger urban areas where these big chain stores come in and put up a big building and then they just leave town and leave the building. A lot of discussion about how that has to be valued and how it affects the schools. Public Act 152 revisions to the 80-20 hardcast, just a lot of discussion about that. And then the HB 5921 actually is a ban or restriction on cell phones in schools. So there were just some issues. What's going to happen with them, who knows? Other issues that were discussed, the kind of hot topics, a lot of discussion on charter schools. There's undoubtedly going to be more accountability on charter schools, more accountability financial, more accountability as far as operation and that kind of stuff. And then the statewide facility plan, if you remember in last year's state budget, the governor had an item in there that going to do a statewide facility study to find out what schools need. Well, that study is done, and the presenter at this conference was one of he was from the firm that did the study. So the study's all been assembled, and whether it ever sees the light of day, we don't know. If I got my numbers right, it was between $200 and $300 billion that they identified across the state of what there's facility needs that the schools have. It was a huge number. So, and it was also noted that Michigan is one of the few states that the state does not give any aid directly for a facility. It's not uncommon for states to give facility-related financing, but Michigan does not. But it's a huge number, so I don't know. They have the information. It may just die. I don't know. Most likely, with that kind of a price tag, it's probably just going to die. Just some things coming up. I'm going to go next week to Lansing for the November board meeting. Some opportunities coming up during the winter for some educational. The Winter Institute is February 7 and 8. These are virtual classes. There's probably about 20, 30 classes offered. The Spring Institute is May 2 and 4. That's in person, and it's on Macro Island. The Summer Institute is August 15 through 16. That's in person. I think that's generally held at Treetops. And then a year from now, October 23 to 26, the annual conference is going to come back to Traverse City. So that's, and I want to remind you also that, if you think about doing some education, the MESB has offered a $750 credit to all boards. They can use that for any activity. I guess there are some limitations, but basically we have a $750 allowance to use for education as part of their 75-year anniversary, so. And a lot of the classes are actually paid by the state of Michigan now, so it'd be very, very minimal cost to the district for any educational opportunities, so. I'm sure you get stuff in that email, so I'd encourage you to follow those also. That's it.
All right, Ken, that's a lot of information there, thank you. Moving on to our discussion items, 31 AA mental health. We're still doing this, right?
Yes, but I do have one thing to add.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing that we looked at, we met with Michael's Place out of Traverse City, a month ago, I would say, 6 weeks ago. And Michael's Place works with schools for grief counseling and planning. And we have all thought it was a good idea to, social workers, administrators and I, to go through this training, grief counseling and planning training, where we set up a plan, they help us create a plan that if we do have a student or faculty member pass away, a staff member pass away, that we have this plan in place, that we know how to respond, we know how to communicate, we know how to. A couple of schools in our area have gone through the training, and when they've gone through a situation like that, they were very thankful that they've had this in place. So that's one thing that we could potentially look at using some 31 AA dollars for. That training will be in January. The first training will be in January, so.
Okay. Next one is our dishwasher for the kitchen.
Yep, just bringing this up, I had it put on the agenda so I didn't forget, like I did my other things in my update. Our dishwasher did go south on us in the elementary kitchen. I did approve Tammy to go ahead and purchase a replacement dishwasher. It was outside of the $10,000 limit. Without board approval, we do have a policy that says if it's eliminating school function, that we can go ahead and do that as long as it's presented to the board. So I'm presenting it to you that we did order this dishwasher. We hope to get it installed soon. It's very waiting for the board meeting. It would take much longer for that to happen, and I think we're all ready for the foam trays to go away, so.
All right, moving on to our action items. A, purchase 4 buses from Midwest Transit.
So moved.
Support.
We have motion support for the 4 buses. Do we have any discussion on this?
I'm assuming this is the same vendor that we've used for the.
It is, yep. And it's the same buses, I believe, it's the only international dealer that we can purchase international buses from. This would be, finish out the bond proposal of 10 buses. We would put 2 under subline so that they're not racking up the miles. As we had planned for the last 4 to be purchased, 2 this year, 2 next year. With the rising of cost, we are gonna purchase them now, my recommendation.
Availability is good? As far as you know.
As far as I know.
Tell her here you don't.
What they say?
I guess, our goal would be to have them by next year.
Yes.
So
By
when
next school year.
when would we start incorporating that rotation into our general fund budget then, the next year?
It would be the following year.
Okay.
Yeah, but actually we need 2 years. Because we'll have 2 buses this year, next year, 2 buses the following year, and then we'll start our
Okay,
rotation.
that's when the
Yeah.
rotation's from, okay.
All right, we got a motion support for the buses. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? B, approve cafeteria table cabinets from Duell.
Motion.
Support.
Motion support for the cafeteria table cabinets. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. C, first reading, Neola 39-1, PO 3120.08, PO 5330.02, PO 5340, PO 5500, PO 7440.03, PO 7540.09, PO 8321, And Edgar UGG, revisions 39.1, PO 1130, PO 3110, PO 4110, PO 6110, PO 6111, PO 6112, PO 6114, PO 6325, PO 6550, PO 7310, PO 7450, and our wellness policy.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support for our policies. Any questions or discussion?
This would just be the first reading.
First reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. D, the hire recommendation of Lynn Carlson, high school parapro.
So moved.
Or
Motion support for Lynn. Questions?
Is there any background information or experience that anybody could share?
So the best part is that she's been subbing for us for
Oh.
several weeks. And so she's been in that role many, many times. And
Perfect.
then was interested in interviewing, so it was a really nice fit.
All right. All those in favor of Lynn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. E, Melanie Schmid approved her maternity leave.
Motion.
Support.
Motion support for Melanie's maternity leave. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And F, preschool accounts, we would be removing Kim Vanderploeg and adding Jenny Isaac.
Motion.
Support.
Motion support. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. And we are back to public comment, which I don't think we're gonna have any tonight, so. Any board members have anything they wanna bring up, discuss? Good down there, Denny, Doug?
Make motion we adjourn.
or
Motion support to adjourn, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is officially adjourned.